Welcome back, watch people. Now, before I go any further, what you can see in the back of my vehicle here is not as a result of me being kicked out of the house. It is in fact all my life jackets and bits and pieces that I use when I go out on the water. I made a video the other day with all this stuff in the back and people actually thought that Mrs. T had kicked me out of the house. It's not that bad, I can tell you that. Right guys, you might remember that November last year I brought you a video that involved a company called La Californienne, who are based in the United States of America. I'll put a link to that video in the video description below. Now, La Californienne had been making a living, a good living apparently, by customizing Rolex watches and then selling them in their varying colours, shapes, guises, whatever way you want to call it. The bottom line is they were customizing Rolex watches and selling them to the public, quite clearly, in my opinion at least, for what they were. These were original Rolex watches that had been customized, dials refinished, straps changed, etc, etc. Look, you can see what you're getting from the images alone without any item descriptions, but nonetheless, as my previous video showed, they ended up in big trouble with Rolex as a company and ended up with a lawsuit. Now, this week I've actually seen a report that puts all this to bed, and I'm going to tell you exactly what that outcome was. So I think before we get into what my opinion is, if that matters at all, I'll read you part of the report, and again I'll leave a link to that full report in the video description below so you can see it all for yourself. But basically this is the bottom line. So I'm now quoting from the report. All images featuring colourful Rolex watches have been scrubbed from La Californienne's Instagram page and its other social channels temporarily suspended as the custom watch company has managed to settle the lawsuit that Rolex filed against it. In a jointly filed judgment by consent and permanent injunction, both dated May the 28th, that's 2020, the court has signed off on a final judgment in favour of Rolex and against La Californienne in connection with the trademark infringement, counterfeiting and unfair competition lawsuit that Rolex filed in November 2019. Now, in accordance with the judgment and injunction, which Judge Gary Klausner of the US District Court for the Southern District of New York signed late last week, La Californienne is subject to a final judgment for trademark counterfeiting, trademark infringement and false design of origin and unfair competition, and permanently barred from engaging in an array of specific conduct, namely using any of the Rolex registered trademarks or any reproduction, counterfeit, copy or colourable imitation of the Rolex registered trademark in connection with the advertisement, promotion, offering for sale or sale of its altered Rolex watches. And finally, this is the last bit that I'll read from the statement. The Los Angeles based company, which is in the business of customizing authentic pre-owned luxury watches, including Rolex models, and selling them by way of established retailers like Farfetch and Goop for upwards of $6,500 US, is also barred from engaging in any course of conduct likely to cause confusion, deception or mistake, or dilute the distinctive quality of the Rolex registered trademarks. Additionally, La Californienne is legally prohibited from using or continuing to use the Rolex trademark on its website, the internet, either in text of a website or as a keyword, search word, meta tag or any other part of the description of the site, or in any promotion or advertising in connection with its altered Rolex watches or any goods or services not authorised by Rolex. Now guys, look, I'm not a legal eagle, and you know, a lot of this is in legal jargon which I don't understand, and some of you might not either. But at the end of the day, the bottom line is this: Rolex got the hump with La Californienne. They took them to court, they've won, and the restrictions now laid out to La Californienne are immense. I mean, look, they can't even use the term Rolex, not even the word, on their website. Now, look, there's a couple of ways at least that you could sum this up and break it down. I've kind of been through some of this before. I kind of get what Rolex have done and why they've done it. I think they are within their rights to do this. I think it's harsh, I've got to be honest with you guys. I mean, look, you know, I'm going to pop some of these watches up on screen. And if anyone out there is thinking that they're buying a Rolex as it left the factory, well, they be pretty naive. But it's not impossible that someone could do that, admittedly. But this company are making it very clear what they're doing, why they're doing it. They're taking predominantly, from what I can see at least, they're taking predominantly older models from the 70s or the 80s, sometimes from the 90s, and they're giving them a bit of a new lease of life with a new colourful strap and a dial, etc. Look, you know, look, the whys and wherefores, the agrees, the disagrees are kind of irrelevant. It's how harsh do Rolex as a company, a massive company, how harsh do they want to be on a family that are basically just trying to make a living out of their passion? Now, yes, I mean, I do understand what trademark infringements mean. And look, I've told you this before, guys, back in the day when they were like the watch that everyone wanted. I sold Rolex watches with custom dials. Rolex wrote to me and asked me to stop, and I did. Not because that I'm such a great guy or such a good lad. I stopped because Rolex asked me to, and when a solicitor from Rolex writes to you and asks you to stop doing something, you're generally advised to stop doing it. Now, I don't know what the Californians' warnings were building up to this lawsuit. I don't know if Rolex had contacted them and asked them to stop, and they didn't. I don't know if they just hit them with this as, you know, in a complete surprise. But what I do know is that, look, I've always been a believer that once you buy something, it's yours. I mean, we went through this in a video, didn't we, the other day about the factory seals. Once you buy them, they're yours. Now, for me, whenever you buy anything, you pretty much, in my opinion, you should be free to do what you want with it. I mean, look, if I go out and buy a car and I want to change the wheels, you know, I'm not going to be ringing up Ferrari or Lamborghini or Range Rover and say, oh, by the way, are you going to sue me if I change the wheels on my car and then sell it? It's just not going to happen. Right across the world, it doesn't matter what hobby or industry that you take into consideration, whether it be, you know, car collecting, motorcycles. Take my Harley Davidson. You know, you buy a brand spanking new Harley Davidson from Harley Davidson, and the first thing you do is put Vance and Hines exhausts on the Harley Davidson. Now, Vance and Hines are not attached to the Harley Davidson motorcycle company, but Harley Davidson themselves will then fit the Vance and Hines pipes on your Harley Davidson. Is it then a counterfeit Harley Davidson? Of course it's not. See, I have to be kind of honest, guys. I feel a bit sorry for this couple, really. I mean, they're just trying to make a living in the trade that they obviously love. And look, if Rolex decide that you're on their radar, that's the time to, you know, sit up and listen. I don't know if Rolex contacted these people before the lawsuit and gave them a warning. If they did and they didn't heed it, then maybe they've only got themselves to blame. I don't know the full backgrounds of it, but I feel that, you know, at the end of the day, the bottom line is it's all about disclosure, isn't it? It's about whether you disclose what you've done to that watch, what changes have been made. And I think that sometimes we have to separate the trade, the hobby, the business that we're in. We have to separate from the realities of the world. There are not many things that you own, that I own right now, that we've treasured for many years, or that come from the 1970s, the 1980s, 1990s, that haven't been changed or altered in some way. In particular, your car. You know, you'll have changed your windscreen wipers at some stage. You'll have changed your tyres. You may have changed the clutch or the gearbox or whatever. It doesn't make that vehicle a counterfeit. What it does mean is that you really should tell the new owner what work has taken place. Now, look, playing devil's advocate as well, from Rolex's side, look, they have a very, very precious commodity, and they quite rightly protect their brand and their trademark every step of the way. And I also understand that too. I think it's wrong that, you know, or I think it's unfair, the amount of counterfeits, copies, etc. that are available worldwide. But here's the thing. Here's one little thing that I will pick up on, because it's the typical low-hanging fruit scenario, isn't it? Look, Rolex don't really have to worry about companies like the Californienne. What they're doing is insignificant in the world of Rolex watches. What isn't insignificant is the mass production of bad quality fakes coming out of countries like China, as an example, and more worryingly, the super fakes that are also coming out of China and places like Switzerland. They're a problem. They're a real problem, and they actually do present a real present danger to Rolex and their trademark, but they never seem to go after them. Probably because they're too hard to go after, especially if the companies are based in China. But it will be nice to see Rolex take up a real good cause, rather than just grabbing that low-hanging fruit that is pretty easy for their lawyers to pick. You know, look guys, it's a contentious issue, as you'll clearly see from the comment section down below. There will be lots of people that agree with Rolex, there'll be lots of people that disagree with Rolex. I'm kind of in the middle. Like I said, I'm a bit of an underdogs man. I feel a little bit sorry for the company, the Californienne. I was hoping that they would win, to be honest. If I'm honest, I was hoping that they would win, and that the courts would have said, well look, you know, you've paid for these products, you can do what you like with them. But maybe that was a little bit naive of me. When you look at some of the rulings, they really have gone to town on these people. I mean, barred from even using the word Rolex on their website. That's pretty strong. I mean, that is really going to town with these people. And of course it begs the question, and here's the real bombshell, here's the real big one for me, is that Rolex are deeming any watch that isn't entirely 100% factory as a fake, as counterfeit. Now that, to my mind, is complete and utter baloney. It is vindictive, it's nasty, it's horrible, and it's just not fair. Now why is that? Why do I feel that way? Why shouldn't Rolex be able to call any watch that's even been remotely changed a complete counterfeit? Well, let's just forget all the laws and the whys and the wherefores and your beliefs as a watch enthusiast or a watch purist. Look, let's make no mistake, let's talk common sense here. If I go to a Rolex store today and buy a brand spanking new 18 karat gold Rolex Daytona from that shop window that afternoon, I take it home, and on the way home I drop the watch, I shatter the sapphire crystal, I take it down to my local non-authorised dealership, who very quickly that afternoon replaces that glass for me, because I don't want to wait 3 months for it to come back from Rolex. I want that watch back on my wrist as soon as possible. He replaces that glass, £45, job done. Is that watch a complete fake? Of course it's not. I mean, come on. I mean, that's just tosh, isn't it? It's just unfair, vindictive, nasty, and I honestly, I can't let that one go. I just don't feel that that's fair, and I don't think there's anyone out there, unless you're just being really vindictive yourself or just plain disagreeable. How can you possibly describe that my scenario with the 18 karat gold Daytona that you buy brand new and replace the glass the same afternoon? How does that watch then become a complete fake? And I just don't think it's fair, because according to that, if you went by that rule, probably 99% of cars on the road, both in the United States and in the UK, will be classed as fake, and that is absolute rubbish. Right guys, so both the links to both the video and the full finding, the court finding, are in the link below in the video description. Maybe have a watch of the video, maybe read the report, and come back and leave me a comment. See what you guys think. I'd be interested to know. As always, thanks for watching, take care, and we'll speak again soon.